skill decks. He placed his hand on his dex book to activate it and put the new combat skill book on it, ordering his dex to take it all in. The words from the combat skill book flew out and were consumed by his dex. He knew that after being registered, a skill book becomes a normal book. This process also happens when any other player obtains them, so he thought he'd have to find as many as he could there. He walked away to find another one, not noticing the fairy watching him. The fairy thought he was a strange human because he was taking multiple similarly titled books and reading the same part over and over. She noticed that the books he was reading, like the author's will, the power of time, and unique handwriting, were different from the others. She sensed something special about him because he could differentiate between the books. She noticed that he was somewhat good looking, but it still didn't interest her enough. She knew that humans couldn't help her, they had to be at least a grand sage or arch-wizard to communicate with her, but even they hadn't been helpful. Her existence, she knew, was the result of many sacrifices, harsh fate, and coincidences, and it was getting hard for her to maintain it. She felt that hoping for a human's help was exhausting and thought that even if these books were special, they weren't good enough for her to live in. The fairy thought she felt something and guessed she might be losing her senses too. But when Raul touched his dex, she wondered why he was handling the book like that. Then, she was surprised to notice that the book was ordinary on the surface, but the symbol engraved on it wasn't. She felt something under the cover calling to her. When she saw Raul put another book on the dex and it began to absorb it, she was shocked. She realized that the power was being transferred from one book to another, but she didn't see a difference in the one that absorbed the power. She knew she had never seen anything like it before, making her want to take a closer look. As Raul walked away from the book, she flew toward it and examined it carefully, realizing it was a book she hadn't tried before and guessing it might be the one she had been looking for. She reached out to touch the dex, wondering what it was. When she touched it, she was confused because nothing happened. The Great Spellbook and 7 religious books had told her their story and allowed her to stay, but this was different. She thought it was not possible and tried again. While she was trying her best to open the dex and wondering why it wasn't working, Raul came back, causing her to look up in shock. He asked her what she was doing on top of his book. He looked at her, wondering who she was, a ghost or a fairy, and why she was translucent, as if she were about to disappear. She flew up and asked him how he could see her. But before he could answer, she flew away from him, leaving him surprised. He was curious about her but knew there was no need to chase after her because finding skill books was more important. He thought that since she seemed interested in the skill decks, she would come back to him eventually. Then the system showed him that the rank C skill acrobatic equitation had been registered to the skill decks, increasing his skill enhancing efficiency by 10.5%. He was happy that the absorption was finished and decided to take a look. He saw that he had around 700 skills registered now, but he was frustrated because it looked pretty messy. He remembered that even in his past life, there was no one who collected skills as much as he did, but he knew that his skill dex was still only of rare grade. This made him wonder how many skill books he needed to collect to see its true power. Suddenly, the fairy called him human and asked him what the book was, surprising him because she came back faster than he expected. Thinking he should be assertive at first, he asked the fairy if she shouldn't apologize first for touching his belongings and why he had to answer her question. She apologized for touching his book and asked if he could actually hear her, as it was rare. Then, she landed on the table and gracefully introduced herself as Ravelina Harriet Meridian, telling him he could call her Ravel. She also told him that she was a fairy, a forest fairy who loves harmony and order. He introduced himself as Raul and told her that he had enrolled in the academy that year. He mentioned that she didn't seem like a normal fairy, to which she replied that she was more of a ghost, so humans called her the library ghost. He asked if she was like a specter, making her angrily ask if she looked like a monster to him. She explained that she was just a soul on the border between life and death, a being that defies the ordinary. He agreed with her and asked why she was interested in that book, pointing at his dex. She replied that his dex was special, even among special ones. He asked if she even knew what the book was, and she admitted she didn't, as the book didn't talk to her, but she was sure it was special. Then, she asked him, almost pleadingly, if he could let her take a look. Raul didn't know much about the skill dex, and there wasn't much information about it in his past life either. He guessed that maybe Raul could upgrade the skill dex for him. Knowing that the dex was bound to him and she couldn't run away with it, he told Raul that he would let her, but she had to promise to tell him everything she learned about the book. Raul jumped in happiness, agreeing to his condition, and thanked him. Then he opened the book for her, and she put her hands inside it. She happily told him that there was a lot of energy flowing through it, but then she felt a spark, making her surprised, and she wondered how that was possible. Suddenly, she was thrown away by the power of the dex. Shaking, she looked at it, asking how it was possible and if he really predicted something like this. But she knew that the dex appearing now was against the rules. He asked worriedly if she was okay, but she excitedly asked where he had found that book. He told her to calm down and reminded her that she was the one who was supposed to tell him about the book. Shoutingly, she told him that his book contained the power of the creator god, and not just any god, but an ancient creator god who was known to have disappeared. Confused, he asked her what she meant by ancient creator god. He also asks her if the ancient creator god's power really exists in that book. He thinks it's not very appealing since he doesn't know anything about it. When Raul saw his grumpy look, she was pissed and asked him if he wasn't amazed. He tells her that he doesn't care about the God part and orders her to just tell him more about the book. She tells him that she doesn't know the details either because she can only get a glimpse of it, but she is sure that his book is forbidden. However, for some reason, it seems to have lost its power. He asks her how he brought out its true form, but she counters by asking him how she would know when that cranky book refuses to talk to her. He dismissively calls it useless, making Raul angrily ask him if he really expects her to find everything out in such a short time. She tells him to let her go inside the book if he wants to know more. But then, the system pops up in front of him and shows him an urgent quest called the Skill Dex's Administrator. It shows him that the forest fairy Raul's spirit requests to move into the Skill Dex and explains that a spirit living in the Skill Dex is automatically considered the Skill Dex's librarian. It explains that appointing a librarian may upgrade the Skill Dex's grade, function, and efficiency. Once he appoints a librarian, he can't fire them without mutual agreement. Then it asks him if he would like to appoint Raul as the Skill Dex's librarian. He is amazed upon seeing this and realizes that Raul tried to sneak into his Dex book. He knows it's not disadvantageous for him, but he can't let strangers enter his book for free, so he closes his Dex shut. Raul is shocked and asks him why he is looking at her like that. He replies that he didn't think he needed anything from her because he already knew about the Skill Dex having some problems, and he thought he could solve them by himself. Then he turns around, telling Raul that he should head back now because it's getting late. This makes her ask him in surprise. Then she flies in front of him to stop him and begs him to listen to her. He tells her that he's busy, so they should talk later, but he doesn't know if he'll ever be back. She sadly asks him if she annoyed him and apologizes if she did. Then she explains to him that it's been a while since she last talked to a human. He thinks he has to be a little more assertive, so he angrily reminds her that he said he was busy and asks her if she did not hear him. She promises him that she'll be helpful and that his book is really important to him. Then she begs him to hear her out. After seeing Raul panicking, he thinks it should be enough and that he should be able to negotiate now. Suddenly, Raul cries and tells him that she is desperate. She then asks him why he doesn't trust her. He panics and tells her that it's not that, trying to calm her down. But she just cries more and loudly while shouting at him that he's so mean. A moment later, when Raul calmed down, he apologized to her, explaining that he didn't mean to make her cry, which she poutingly accepted. Still, he tells her that he can't just let her enter the book because it is very important to him. He wants to know her story first and asks her how she ended up like this and why she is so desperate. Then he explained to her that after she answers, he would decide what to do next. She agreed to his condition and told him that she would tell him because she trusted him, but warned him that it was a long story. A very long time ago, there was a great war across Connect. The war involved various races including gods, demons, and even extraterrestrial entities. The war brought the continent to the brink of destruction. The forest fairies were close to extinction, and the fairies tried to evacuate Raul, the last heir, into a book as a last resort. But due to the chaotic mana and dimensional fluctuations, Raul's spirit got stuck in the book while her kind disappeared into a dimensional crack. Raul slept for a long time after it, and when she woke up, she found herself needing to move around books to stay alive. Then Raul tells him that every time she wakes up, she loses a portion of her memory, but she knows she has some sort of duty. He asked her what duty she was talking about, and she tearfully replied that she needed to find her kind who were scattered around the world because she believed there were more fairies alive besides her. Then she tells him that she has to deliver their family's wisdom and essence, so she can't die before it, but she is stuck inside books. So she couldn't even leave the library and she was running out of books that could contain her. Then she pointed to his Dex while telling him that it had the same scent as the first book that contained her, and she thought that book might even be better than the first book she was from before. Then she begs him to let her enter his book. He thinks it should be enough and tells her that she may enter it, but she'll have to be the book's librarian. It might bind her to him and he asks her if she is okay with it. She happily replied of course, as long as he lets her enter the book. But then she asked him what he was trying to do with that book. He replied that he was using it to protect his family and homeland. Then he tells her that it might mean nothing to her, but it means a lot to him. She tells him that it was a great reason and accepts his hand while telling him that they should do it together. He opens his Dex, while Raul tells him that she won't be able to help him right away since she needs some time to settle and she will be asleep for around a month, but the Dex should still work normally. He tells her there is no need to hurry and hopes she wakes up fine. She lays on the book, thanking him and telling him that once she wakes up, she'll help him as much as she can. Then she waves goodbye to him, telling him she'd see him in a month. Then she begins to sleep inside Raul's decks, and it was how Raul found a fairy companion. Time passed fast after Raul met Raul, and there was a week left before the update. He knows that he still has a lot to prepare, but he was short on time. Dylan told him that he was proud of him because he saw him working hard. And he was right that there was an oracle from a shrine. Then Dylan asks him how did he know about it, but he just asks Dylan back what the prophet said. Dylan replied that it was quite strange because the prophet said that a week from now, things that had disappeared would return, and connections that had been severed would be restored, and to stop the inception of evil, one must open the door and harvest the void fruit from within. He thinks the oracle is very vague, but he knows that he can't just ignore it either, so he asks Dylan how the shrine reacts. Dylan replied that they just got more troops to prepare for the great danger. He asked Dylan what about the nobles because he could kind of imagine their reactions, and Dylan replied that as he might imagine, most of them ignored it or considered it a joke. Dylan tells him that he would have ignored it as well if it wasn't for him, and there are a few precedents too. He knows that it was not a few, but a lot of precedents exist because the Holy Empire is ruled by the Pope. The Holy Empire is a small city-state alliance consisting of Garnelia and several mid-sized cities. Despite its small scale, it holds the imperial title due to its religious influence, and it's designated to be an impermeable domain. Also, they announce many oracles. He tells Dylan that he was worried that it'll be too late if it does end up happening. But Dylan tells him not to worry because they'll do as much as they can, and he already gave out word about how to react to their people and the other families close to them. Then Dylan laughingly tells him that they should stop worrying and work out together because he should show him his strange skills too, making him realize that their family never forgets something they are interested in, especially his father and brother, which is the reason why Dylan took his words seriously. And when he told Dylan about the update, he tells him that it was an oracle, but since Dylan also found out about his psychokinesis, Dylan has been pestering him to show it to him. A moment later, in the training ground, he was being attacked by Dylan, who, passionate about the training, reminded him that he had told him to stop depending on his skill and focus on his physical growth. This made him feel that he could never get used to that training. He remembers starting training with Dylan because Dylan kept insisting. Because of it, his muscles grew and his psychokinesis body enhancement leveled up to his past life's level. So, he figured out that Dylan's only interested in the physical body, which is why, despite Dylan's inhumane body, there are many weaknesses in Dylan's combat skills. He knows that the enemies they will face once the war starts won't be easy, so Dylan has to get stronger to face them. He thinks if Dylan uses proper combat skills with his inhumane body, it will be much better. He looks at Dylan, knowing that Dylan knows the gap between them is getting smaller every time they duel. Dylan notices that he can't overpower him with just his body, and that's when he'll find Dylan a proper skill. He knows that he will be able to find more skill books once the dungeons open, and it can't just be him, he has to make the people around him stronger as well, making him think that his plan is indeed interesting. Later, while they are outside and he is in the carriage, he is busy thinking that he is almost done with tasks that need to be done before the update. But it bothers him how everyone's acting so normal despite the Oracle's public announcement. He notices that no lords are trying to prepare for things that haven't happened yet, making him think that he will need a lot of help from the kingdom to progress through the scenario. Monsters invading through the gate and war with the Empire, there will be times when a large number of troops will be needed. The kingdom's troops have to be preserved and grown to prepare for it. But he knows there are limits on what he can do, even if he is the Count's son and knows about the future. After all, he is still just a 15-year-old kid. Raul chooses to focus on what he can do. He listens to lectures in the academy and searches for skill books in the library. Raul even visited 3 other beginner cities when he had no classes: Mira to the south, Kessin to the east, Bryant to the west, and Zusek to the north, making 4 in total. Raul used a letter of recommendation he got from Mira and met the mayors of the other 3 cities. When Raul offered to invest in their cities, they gladly accepted it since their situation wasn't much different from Mira's. Raul initiated large-scale civil engineering projects in the city's core land and established branches of the first guild. It cost him around 3.5 million gold. But Raul thinks it was worth it, and he knows that he has to finish the construction before the players start joining. Raul also issued a mercenary recruitment notice in the 4 free cities and the capital's mercenary guild. He looked for individual mercenaries of C rank or higher and small-scale mercenary groups of up to 10 members. The contract stated that Raul would pay double for their first month and offer them a chance to join the guild or become a trainee knight if they proved meritorious. There were many applicants since the offer was amazing, and Raul managed to recruit 50 rank B mercenaries and 950 rank C mercenaries. Rank C mercenaries consist of trained soldiers from other territories or individuals with over 3 years of experience, while rank B mercenaries can be swordsmen or hold key positions in small mercenary groups. Raul spent around 30,000 gold hiring all the mercenaries, and although it will cost more to keep them, he believes they are worth it. He thinks he won't have to worry even if a high-level battle occurs, while the people can't believe that he is that wealthy and wonder what if nothing happens or if Raul is planning something else. He asks Philip if he called the guild members, and Philip replies that all 45 members are there, except for the executives. He then explains that they were divided into 10 groups and have finished training. Additionally, he called the regular knights who were already there as well. Raul praises Philip for his excellent work and tells him not to let his guard down, reminding him that they have a mission tonight, which Philip respectfully acknowledges. Raul knows that many things have changed. The 6 trainee knights have reached the expert level and were promoted to regular knights, and a total of 9 knights, including Philip, Jake, and Pierce, have become regular members of the First Knight. The trainee knights and other soldiers are affiliated with the First Knights, so now his first guild will make its first public move as the First Knights. He looks at his first guild status, which is ranked as beginner level 10 with the strength of a local influential guild. The guildmaster is himself, the vice guildmaster is Philip. The administrative officer is Bernard, and it has a total of 50 members, 9 regular knights, 35 trainee knights, and 5 administrators. Also, his first guild's buffs are experience points 10% and proficiency 10%. Then he decides to look at his guild members' stats and looks at his people, knowing that he picked potential talent rank B or higher. They were better than he thought, making him curious about how much stronger they'd get. He was sure that he had done all he could to prepare for the update, and all he had to do now was hope that everything goes as he planned, while looking at the remaining time before the update starts. Meanwhile, in some room, Silver orders his members to report. One of them reports that the royal family has not taken action. All they've done is increase their patrols. Similarly, the Templeton family is in a similar position, and the McNeils are doing the same. He calls member number 6 to inquire if Ashton County is normally religious. Number 6 replies that they are not, but explains that the Ashtons have a good relationship with the shrine. They aren't particularly religious, but have been preparing even before the oracle was announced, leading him to assume they have a different source of information. He asks 6 if Gray has made any moves. 6 replies that nothing is out of the ordinary and that Gray is currently focused on the academy. Then, he calls number 8 to inquire about his success infiltrating the mercenary squad. Number 8 apologizes, explaining that their attempts were unsuccessful. The other members are surprised, given that the mercenaries were looking for 1,000 men, yet not even one of theirs could make it in. Number 8 explains that they passed the pre-test but failed the main test, suspecting Raul has some sort of special ability. Silver listens silently to his members. One of them asks if they should be concerned about Raul, noting that Raul has no apparent benefit from interfering. Another member agrees, assuring the group that the nobles couldn't stop their grand plan. Silver concurs with his members and decides to keep Raul under surveillance for the time being. He then inquires about the status of their agents. One member responds that everyone is already in place. He reminds them that the grand plan is about to begin, and the day to overthrow the pig nobles is almost upon them. They should remain focused. They all reply in unison, yes, for the Emperor, while Silver continues to ponder about Raul. Meanwhile, on the street, a boy walking with his mother points to the sky and asks what it is. The woman looks up and sees a swarm of meteors, wondering aloud what they are and why there are so many. Suddenly, a loud noise ensues, and the ground shakes, causing panic among the people who shout about an earthquake. The woman hugs her child, telling him to hold on and stay close. The boy cries in his mother's arms, and as the shaking slowly subsides, he opens his eyes to see a portal in front of them. Everyone stares at the portal in surprise and confusion. Then, a hand emerges, followed by a swarm of monsters. The woman screams in fear as the monsters approach her and her child. But fortunately, someone appears and decapitates the monster just in time. Jake, in disbelief, orders everyone to evacuate to safety, declaring the area dangerous. The woman immediately picks up her child and runs away, thanking Jake for his help. He reported that he found a gate in Outer Wall 4, Area B, Section 32, and that they were engaging defense mechanisms. Then, he ordered his knights to evacuate the civilians and keep their guards up. Meanwhile, in Outer Wall 3, Area F, Section 21, Pierce reported that he found a gate from which a few monsters had emerged, but there had been no damage to civilians. Meanwhile, in Outer Wall 1, Philip reports that a gate appeared in the Noble Area, Section 3. They will control the area and hand it over to the guards. Meanwhile, in the mansion, Raul praised everyone and told them to keep reporting. He was inside the mansion, looking at the map, while someone requested backup from him. He replied that he understood and ordered everyone at Section 14 to head over to Section 32 to provide support. Then, Pierce reported to him that a group of goblins had come through the gate, and they were engaging, making Raul realize that the update had begun. He called Bernard, and Bernard appeared immediately. He ordered Bernard to decide who to dispatch from the squad and send them to each section, to which Bernard replied that he understood and left. Raul knew this was coming, but he hadn't expected it to happen everywhere. He also knew they had prepared as much as they could, but it was still a close call for them. There wasn't enough information about that quest in the first place. The only thing he knew was that the kingdom was badly damaged in Connect Year 521 due to the appearance of gates, but he didn't know the number, location, or rank of the gates. This made him wish he could just clear the gates by himself, but he knew he was not alone now and had to minimize civilian damage using the force of his entire guild. He thought if he knew the gate's ranks, he could place his troops more efficiently. He was deep in thought when the system popped up, showing him a limited quest titled Gate Rush with a rank of X. Its objective was to clear as many gates as he could within a deadline of 30 days. The description stated that unknown dimensional gates had taken over the world of Connect, so he should clear as many gates as possible to calm the civilians. The reward for the mission was based on the ranking, and the number 1 guild or individual might receive a special gift. It also reminded him that the gates refresh every midnight. Surprised, he asked what it meant by refresh. He wondered if this was inevitable. He had his suspicions, but he never expected it like this. The scenario in Connect has a defensive system that can halt any play that might adversely affect the scenario. It can also add special requirements to a quest, as it has done now. Usually, it issues players sudden quests or follow-up quests. Raul knows that no matter how many gates he clears, it won't be easy, but he can't afford to give up yet. He realizes he must find a way to minimize damage. While he is deep in thought, formulating a plan, someone reports to him that they've found the golden gate he mentioned in Outer Wall 2, Area 3, Section 17. Currently, nothing is happening there, but the force is intensifying. He orders them not to engage and cautions them that the gate they are facing can suck in anything, so they should be extremely careful. Then, he orders the deployment of 3 rank B mercenaries, placing that area under special watch. Philip responds that he understands. Raul grabs his sword from his storage, knowing he can't just stay back in command anymore, especially with the appearance of a rank D gate. He decides to deal with it personally. Meanwhile, in Outer Wall 2, Area 3, Section 17, a man named Josh, 21 years old and a rank C mercenary, came from a small farm. Josh had worked his way up from rank F to where he was now, a noble. Seeking mercenaries and offering a chance to become a knight had enticed Josh with a cozy house and a meal so incredible that Josh had never experienced anything like it before. Josh thought he could just enjoy a normal life by catering to the noble's mood. He hadn't expected to face huge monsters emerging from the Gold Gate. The monsters rushed towards him, but he exhaled and slashed at every monster in his path. However, more monsters continuously emerged from the gate, making him realize this battle might never end, and he might exhaust himself before the monsters did. Suddenly, a huge monster emerged from the Gold Gate. Josh couldn't believe the number of monsters, and now there was an even bigger one. He realized he couldn't just fend them off anymore and had to focus on the large one. As Josh ran toward it, thinking he had to take down the big one first to intimidate the smaller ones, someone ran past him. Weapons on the ground began to float and directly pierce the monsters. Raul, with his glaring blue eyes, approached the huge monster and easily decapitated it with his sword. Then, he landed on the ground as Josh watched from behind. Raul apologized to Josh, asking if he had interrupted. Then he told Josh he looked familiar and asked if he was part of the first guild. Josh replied affirmatively, introducing himself as rank C mercenary, Josh. Raul commented on Josh's ambition, noting it was too risky because ratmen weren't easily scared. He acknowledged Josh's rank but advised that rank D gates were too challenging for him and suggested he join them for now. However, Josh just asked him who he was as Jake approached them. Jake informed Josh that he might be new, but ignorance of his master's identity was no excuse. He then introduced him as the master of the first guild, Raul Ashton. Jake was surprised that Raul was the master, but Jake warned Josh not to expect an easy time just because the guild was founded by a count's son. He told Josh that if he was looking for an easy path, he had come to the wrong place, as their guild was only for the qualified. He advised Josh to stay alert and follow them. Then Raul orders everyone to engage and wishes them good luck, to which they all agree. Josh looks at him, thinking that it is a guild only for the qualified, and after a moment's hesitation, he rushes to follow them. Meanwhile, inside the Gold Gate, the Ratmen were approaching the gate to exit, but the Ratman was surprised upon seeing Raul enter. Raul swiftly slashed through the Ratmen in his path, killing them instantly. However, he quickly noticed the large number of Ratmen waiting behind, realizing there were more than he expected. It was fortunate he had decided to come himself. He made his way through, aware that he wouldn't have enough time to clear every gate and needed to act quickly. Jake informs him that this was just the entrance, but notes the large number of Ratmen. He asks Raul if he thinks their base is nearby. Raul replies that it might be and orders Jake to dispatch a scout to search the area. As Raul is busy instructing Jake to prioritize the rescue of civilians, Josh dashes past him, charging at the Ratmen ahead. Josh raises his sword and begins to decimate the ratmen, cutting off heads and slashing them in half with relentless strikes. Jake observes Josh's actions and comments on his special abilities, noting that while Josh's sword skills are unrefined, his senses are sharp. Josh, proud of his performance, gives a thumbs up, making Raul think that Josh would improve significantly if he learned to wield mana. The knight reports to Raul that they've located the Ratman base behind the forest. However, no civilians were seen at the base, which was large and devoid of other monsters. Jake adds that they've ensured no civilians were near the gate, so the likelihood of finding many civilians at the base is low. Nevertheless, Raul instructs Jake to conduct a thorough search, emphasizing that no civilians can be lost today. Jake acknowledges the order. Raul then reminds everyone that while clearing the gate is important, rescuing civilians is the priority. He orders Josh to accompany him to the base, to which Josh immediately agrees. Finally, Raul announces to the group that they are in for a long night and urges everyone to be prepared. The next morning, in the mansion, Dylan observes that he looks very tired after just one night and asks if he was exhausted. He then suggests that they should work out together more. Responding seriously, he tells Dylan that it's not a good time for jokes and inquires about the events of the night. Dylan, seemingly unconcerned, asks why he is so worried and reassures him that they are well prepared with all the necessary information. He then questions Dylan about the number of gates that appeared at their home. Dylan casually replies that there were about 100 gates, with 10 of them ranked D, which made it an easy task. Shocked by this revelation, he exclaims that the situation was worse than expected. However, Dylan looks at him confusedly and counters that he thought it was less severe than anticipated. He suggests going home to assist, but Dylan dismisses the idea, informing him that all the gates have already been cleared, leaving him looking at Dylan in disbelief. Dylan elaborates that it took them only half a day to clear all the gates, and even their father enjoyed the opportunity to stretch a little. He describes how Golden Bear High, Master Trevor, and Commander Ernest were all excited as if it were a festival, bored with ordinary life, which elicits an awkward laugh from him. Dylan then laughingly remarks how amusing it was to see the old men so energized, prompting him to realize that his family is far from normal. He acknowledges to Dylan that although the situation ended safely, it was reckless, reminding Dylan of his earlier instruction to leave the rank D gates alone due to their danger. Dylan, however, challenges this notion, questioning if he was expected to wait for his arrival to resolve the situation with his mysterious power. Dylan then seriously reminds him that Ashton County is strong, and that their father and he are not weak. He assures him that they are always prepared for any enemy, and the number of gates is inconsequential to them. Dylan also asserts that Ashton doesn't need the help of his knights, confidently stating that even a few hundred gates are easily manageable for them. Suddenly, Dylan calls out his name loudly, startling him. Dylan then advises him not to worry about home and to focus on his own tasks, assuring him that their father and brothers will handle any aftermath. He sighs with a smile, conceding that Dylan is right and admitting his own arrogance. Dylan then questions if he now understands, teasingly saying that he is nowhere close to being strong enough to act tough in front of him. Changing the subject, Dylan mentions that some of the gates did not disappear after being cleared, puzzling both of them. A moment later, in the meeting room, he informs his team that clearing the gates did not destroy them, and his brother Dylan reported that the rank E and D gates that appeared at their home haven't disappeared. Although there wasn't significant damage, their concerns had materialized. Jake questions if this isn't a major problem and suggests keeping an eye on them, but acknowledges their surveillance capacity is limited. Philip points out that increasing surveillance could stretch their defense squad thin and urges a swift resolution. He proposes they investigate why the gates are not vanishing to explore alternative solutions. Bernard inquires if they should mobilize their men, but he declines, deciding that only a few elite members will accompany him on this mission: himself, Philip, Jake, and Pierce. Philip expresses concern about the small size of the team, but he explains that with the retired veterans actively involved back home, they cannot afford to merely observe. He then instructs Bernard to prepare a 10-man scouting team to investigate the gates, emphasizing the possibility of encountering civilians. Bernard acknowledges the order. Jake, lightening the mood, jokingly suggests preparing lunch boxes, reminiscing about the old days. Pierce, however, questions Jake about referring to events that occurred just 2 months ago as the old days. Philip reminds Jake that this is not a leisure trip and urges him not to lower his guard, leading to Jake clarifying that his comment was in jest. Later, inside the Gold Gate, they are confronted by various monsters. He checks if they are tired, but Jake, surrounded by a horde of defeated monsters, declares he's just getting warmed up. He emphasizes the need for speed, as they can't afford to waste time. As monsters leap towards them, he and Philip efficiently dispatch the creatures on their respective sides. Jake, engaged in combat, half-jokingly tells the monsters to move aside, unaware of a goblin sneaking up behind him. Just in time, an arrow strikes and kills the goblin, saving Jake. who is visibly shocked. Pierce comments that there is no need for thanks, but Jake, annoyed, insists he didn't need the help, asserting he was managing fine. Pierce, sighing, turns away. Jake, still agitated, challenges Pierce to a competition for more kills, but Philip interjects, reminding Jake they are not there for games. Meanwhile, Raul surveys the area, noting nothing remarkable except for the rugged terrain. Josh then arrives to report, and he prompts Josh to proceed. Josh informs him that the rough terrain is somewhat challenging, but nothing extraordinary was found, and it appears there are no civilians in the area. He reflects on the nature of the gates, aware they are designed so that only players can approach them. He recalls that, although NPCs in Connect are significantly stronger than players and could easily clear a gate or dungeon, there are stringent restrictions to prevent this, as players would not approve of NPCs handling these challenges. NPCs are prohibited from entering Gate Guardian or Dungeon Boss rooms. Regardless of their strength, if they are not a player, they cannot close the gate. As he contemplates a solution, the system notification appears, indicating that the gate clear conditions have been met. It alerts him to a newly discovered hidden space and triggers a hidden quest named Guardian Elimination. The notification warns that the quest will automatically expire after 30 minutes if not accepted. The quest details reveal that Guardian Elimination is a grade D+ quest with the objective to eliminate the Gate Guardian. The description states that a powerful Guardian is protecting the gate, and he must neutralize the Guardian and the gate to complete the quest. The rewards include experience points, gold, and a low-tier random item box. Normally, he would be excited about a hidden quest, but he acknowledges the time constraints they are under. He then inquires if the others have also seen the hidden quest, to which they affirmatively respond. Philip wonders if they need to locate the Gate Guardian themselves, expressing doubt that any of the creatures they've already encountered could be the Guardian. Suddenly, Josh points out something behind him, asking if by chance the Guardians they were discussing are the ones appearing behind him. Turning around, he sees a figure with a huge foot emerging. The Ranky Gate Guardian, a dark corrupted goblin, reveals itself to them. Philip tells them that he guessed it was the place's guardian. Jake asks the goblin if it came to them by itself and tells it that it was worthy of its size. Philip tells them that they didn't look for it, which is convenient. Josh tells them to leave the guardian to him because he'll take care of it. But Raul tells Josh no, because he is going to take the goblin alone and orders them to step aside. Josh fearfully steps aside and replies that he understood. Jake asks Philip what is up with Raul, but Philip just asks Jake back what he means, when Raul always leads the battles. On the other hand, Raul sighed, knowing that he ordered them to step aside because there are no rewards given when NPCs eliminate the Guardian, and he doesn't expect much from a Ranky gate. But he asked himself why not do it himself when he wants to see if the gate will stay open if he eliminates the Guardian himself. The goblin launched its Morning Star weapon at him, but he just blocked it with his sword. The goblin tried to forcefully push his sword down, which caused sparks. Still, he tried his best to block it, and when the goblin's force was all in his weapon, he released his sword from blocking its weapon, which made it unbalanced. Then he immediately swung his sword up and slashed the goblin's body in half. Jake tells them that it was too easy for Raul, and Philip responds that the Guardian is nothing for their young master. But Josh can't believe it and thinks Raul is crazy because he parried the heavy attack and created space at the same time, making Josh wonder if that's how skilled the guild master was. After the fight, Raul realizes what Ranky Guardians are like and understands that a Ranky Guardian can be difficult for unskilled mercenaries to fight against. He knows that the gate should disappear now that the Guardian has been defeated, and then the system pops up as he expected and shows him that the Guardian elimination was detected, so the gate will disappear soon. Then it warned him of an error because the compulsion was activated, shutting down the gate collapse sequence. It also showed him that the current gate is a scenario gate and the entrance will be shut and reopened at midnight, making him look at it confused. A moment later, he ordered them to pay attention to the core of ore and explained to them that it was the heart of power armor. Core ore is a grade E and it is a rare mineral that is only found in gates and dungeons. Also, it can be used to make power armor if processed right. He tells them that they have to collect as much as they can find because, with enough of those, they can make a power armor factory. Jake asks him if he means that thing is super valuable, making Pierce ask Jake if he is not listening. He looks back at the gate and realizes that he defeated the Guardian. Yet the gate didn't disappear, but he knows that he can't go against the scenario. He thinks it's not bad because he was going to follow the scenario anyway and swears that he will get infinitely stronger with those infinitely respawning gates. Then he tells them that they are now going to clear every single D-rank gate that has appeared in the capital and they are not going to rest, so they should stay awake. Jake replies that he has been waiting for this. He tells them that they need one more mercenary to join them and asks Josh if he can come with them, making Josh surprised and ask if he really means him. He tells Josh that he took his opportunity to shine this time, so he'll let him have this one, to which Josh excitedly replies that he understands. Then he tells them that they should go. Later, they enter another rank D gate. He is surprised as he walks inside, wondering if it's just a normal cave because that place would be completely dark without the gate. He wasn't expecting it, but he thought it was good that he brought one of those. Then he opens his storage to get something. Jake walks inside, shouting about how dark it is, and asks where they are. He just orders Jake to stay close to the gate since it's dangerous. He takes out a lamp from his storage and tells them that they should look around using it. Jake is amazed to see the magic lamp and tells them that he heard those lamps are rare. Philip tells them that it's the first time he has actually seen a lamp and thinks that it's really nice. He tells them that they can see what's around them, but they should make sure to stay close and try not to spread out thin and fight together. Then he asks them if they understand, which they confirm that they do. Then he gives the lamp to Josh and tells him that his first mission is to take care of that lamp. Josh asks him if he is really the one who should take care of that precious lamp, and he replies that he is giving it to him because he trusts him, so he should try his best since he is their guild's rookie. Josh is surprised to hear that he's called a rookie and swears to him that he'll protect that lamp with his life. He peeks at Josh, knowing that there's no way Josh had known that he was the lucky one, because Josh would soon become a rank S mercenary and be hailed as a possible candidate for the position of Mercenary King. Then he sees that Josh's level is 38 with classes of Free Mercenary and First Guild, which is temporary. Josh's potential talent is Grade A, Strength is 53, Agility is 56, Stamina is 59, Intelligence is 32, Willpower is 48, and Senses are 62. Josh's unique traits are Beast Sense, which is Grade A+, Competitive, which is Grade B, and Desire for Success, which is Grade C+. Then Raul asks Pierce how things are up there and if he sees anything. Pierce replies that he saw multiple movements in the dark and is sure of one thing: they were exuding a hostile aura. Suddenly, Pierce spots something and immediately releases his arrows toward it. Pierce hits something in the dark, and Jake, panicky, asks Pierce if he found something and if he hit it. Pierce confidently replies that he could hit something with his eyes closed and tells them that they are surrounded, glaring back at the bat. Suddenly, a swarm of bats flies down toward them. He shouts to his team that they are giant bats and they attack where they see light. Josh looks at the lamp he's holding when he hears the mention of light, and then the bats begin to attack him. Jake tells him that the bats are all gathering around the lamp, and he orders Josh to drop the lamp. However, Josh angrily swings his swords at the bats, asking them in anger if they dare to challenge him, the rookie. Josh slashes at the bats near him while still holding the lamp. The bats, being chopped into pieces, scream in pain while Josh continuously slashes at them, shouting to the bats that they are not touching the lamp. Jake tells him that Josh is going crazy and that he hyped him up too much. He tells Jake that it's good to have someone energetic and they should just say it was a type of admission test. Josh, still fighting the bats, asks them if they are just going to keep watching. But Jake just tells Josh that he is too slow. Philip reminds Josh that he said he was the rookie, so he can do it alone, without them noticing the huge monster behind them watching. After defeating the bats, they proceed to walk further. Jake comments that they are in pretty deep but still haven't seen anything significant, questioning if the cave is just full of bats. Philip warns Jake not to let his guard down because the cave is still a D-rank gate, and their master is also staying vigilant, so they should keep up. Josh, looking at Raul from behind, asks Philip how strong their master is. Philip replies that it depends on what his definition of strong is. He mentions that Raul is getting stronger every day and lacks nothing as a member of the Ashton family. However, judging by pure sword skills, Raul is probably weaker than Jake. Suddenly, Jake shouts from behind, exclaiming about the size of the bugs, prompting Philip to tell Josh that despite Jake's appearance, his sword skill is amazing. Suddenly, Raul senses something and Philip approaches him. Raul acknowledges he was aware of it and then addresses the monsters in front of him, indicating they've finally come out. He observes the armored scorpions, which are level 45, rank D, with traits of acid poison and steel armor. Jake shouts about their ugliness, but Philip cautions them about the large number of scorpions and the need for caution. Raul knows that the giant bats couldn't be the main enemies in a D-rank gate, and that these scorpions only appear in gates and dungeons, guessing it's his members' first time facing such a monster. He draws his sword and instructs his members that whatever the situation, if it's a quest, they must get through it. He advises them about the scorpion's steel hard armor and poisonous stinger, then asks if they are ready to eliminate them all. Suddenly, the system pops up, displaying a quest titled D-Rank Dimension Gate with the objective to eliminate 50 armored scorpions. The quest has no time limit, and the rewards include experience points, gold, and a low-tier random material box. Raul realizes it's not a conquest but an elimination quest, asking him to clear the quest, not to destroy the gate. As the scorpions jump at him, he decides to ponder this after dealing with the immediate threat. He raises his sword to confront the oncoming scorpions. Meanwhile, Philip and Jake are also fighting off the scorpions. The scorpions leap towards Josh, who is still clinging to the lamp for dear life. Josh curses the scorpions, wondering why they are targeting him, oblivious to the scorpion behind him. Just as the scorpion is about to strike him with its tail, Josh manages to turn around in time and slash it. However, another scorpion appears behind him, launching its tail, making him realize he can't dodge it. Fortunately, swords strike the scorpion just in time, and Josh is surprised to see the swords floating. Raul, who was controlling the swords, asks Josh if protecting a lamp and fighting simultaneously is challenging. He expresses his concern that he might be stealing Josh's chance to shine, when all he wants is for Josh to focus on protecting the lamp. Then he releases the swords directly at the scorpions in front of him, piercing their bodies and killing hundreds in just a minute. Jake comments that Raul took care of most of the scorpions and thought he could have stretched a little this time, while Josh's mouth hangs open in shock. Josh looks at Raul, thinking he isn't real. He had heard Raul is only 15 years old and realizes that Raul isn't just role-playing a noble knight. Raul is the master he will serve. Raul looks at the scorpions killed on the ground and notices that he has killed 50 of them, meeting the minimum requirement to clear the gate. He then tells them they should go deeper. Jake says he thought the quest was over, but Raul tells him they have to make sure since they are already there, and a rank D gate is dangerous if left uncleared. Jake mumbles that he thought they could finally get out of the cave, but Philip tells Jake to stop mumbling. Raul looks around, knowing they met the requirement, yet the hidden quest to destroy the gate didn't pop up, making him realize they had to find the Guardian themselves. He knows it is dangerous to leave the Guardian alone, so he has to find it, even if it takes time. Suddenly, Pierce asks him if he can hear him. Raul replies yes and asks Pierce if he found anything. Pierce says he found the end of the cave but thought it'd be better if Raul took a look at it himself, glancing at the huge arena in front of him. A moment later, they arrive at the end and see a circular arena in the middle of the cave. Jake guesses the one in the middle is the Guardian, and Raul agrees that it probably is. Jake asks why it isn't moving and suggests it looks like it's waiting for them. The D-rank Guardian, Scorpion Champion, who is level 64, grade C+, stands in the center of the arena, glaring at them. Raul comments that it's funny and the Scorpion Champion is inviting them, so they have to accept the invitation. He jumps down into the arena, followed by his members. He safely lands, feeling bad for his members, but then walks toward the Scorpion Champion, thinking he can't yield this one and it's not just for the reward. He tells the Scorpion Champion that he made him wait, so it should come at him with all it has got. This makes the Scorpion Champion angry and growl at him. Then the Scorpion Champion raises its hand and tail to attack, and Raul swings his sword forward in response. The Scorpion Champion swings its sword at him, but he blocks it with his sword. Then, the Scorpion Champion launches its stinger, but fortunately, he jumps away in time to dodge it. He swings his sword down at the Scorpion Champion, only to be surprised when it blocks his attack with its claw, then throws him away, causing him to slide backwards. The Scorpion Champion furiously runs toward him, and he charges to meet it in the center. Their swords collide, glaring at each other. They begin to swing their swords back and forth, trying to strike each other. From above, Philip notices that the Scorpion Champion is holding its own against Raul. Jake guesses that the rank D gate Guardians aren't easy. Josh wonders if they should help if Raul is struggling. But Jake responds, pointing out that Raul has a definite advantage. He notes that the Scorpion Champion is using a sword, claws, and a poisonous tail, yet Raul has only used his sword from the beginning, indicating that Raul is relaxed and seems to be enjoying the fight. On the other hand, Raul remembers how long it's been since he last felt this way. He's finally free from training, real estate, and guild management, able to focus solely on the fight. However, he knows he can't enjoy this forever. He uses his mana to enhance his sword and tells the Scorpion Champion that he's busy at the moment, so they should move on to the next phase. He did enjoy fighting, but unfortunately, he's short on time, so it's time to end their fight. The Scorpion Champion smiles at him and uses a mana blade too, surprising him. Suddenly, it throws poison at him. Shocked, he manages to jump to the side in time to avoid the poison. When the poison lands on the ground, it melts the surface. He can't believe the Scorpion Champion can shoot poison too. As he's preoccupied with this thought and the need to be cautious, he sees the Scorpion Champion swing its sword to attack him. He manages to block it just in time, and their swords clash with a force that causes a loud explosion sound in the cave. From above, his members cover their faces to protect themselves from the force of the clash. Pierce notes that the Scorpion Champion can use a mana blade, which is unexpected. Josh, worriedly, shouts to them that he thought this was now an emergency and asks if they are sure they don't need to help Raul. Jake tells Josh to stop overreacting and questions if he's really considering interfering in Raul's fight. Then Philip tells Josh that they would only distract Raul if they tried to help him, so they should just believe in Raul. On the other hand, Raul is asking himself how he could forget and lie without this thrill. He remembers the days when he lived to fight and fought only to live. He realizes that he had forgotten about the thrill of a life and death situation and the intensity of combat. He decides to use the Scorpion Champion as much as he can, as Crash, the paramount solo player. He looks at the Scorpion Champion and realizes that it's not easy at all, considering it has a mana blade, ranged attacks, and high strength and agility. However, its moves are simple and large, so he knows he can use that to his advantage. He runs toward it with his sword in front, wondering what it will use this time: sword, claw, or tail. The Scorpion Champion opens its claws to attack him, but he sees it coming and jumps away in time, making its claw stuck in the ground. Shocked, the Scorpion Champion tries to pull its claw out, but Raul sees this as an opportunity. He immediately jumps above it and cuts its tail off with one swing of his sword. It screams in pain, but he doesn't let it recover and quickly jumps back at it. He swings his sword to cut it in half. He tells the Scorpion Champion that it was nice having a nostalgia trip through him and bids it farewell. Jake asks if Raul just keeps getting stronger, to which Philip agrees and tells them it hasn't been long since Raul reached the expert stage, but he's already at the intermediate level. Philip then tells Jake that it's only a matter of time until Raul surpasses his level of skill with the sword, making Jake frown. Jake shoutingly tells Raul that they should move on to the next gate, but he calls dibs on the next gate guardian, leaving Raul wondering what is wrong with Jake. The notification pops up, showing that his sword skill Bear Crush Grade A+ has reached intermediate level 4. His class changes to Knight Intermediate Sword Expert. The elimination of the Gate Guardian is approved, and the hidden quest is complete. Smiling, he thinks to himself that it was nice. He then apologizes to his members for taking some time and mentions that it must have been boring just to watch. Josh excitedly replies that it was amazing and that his combat just cleansed his eyes, making him awkwardly thank Josh. Philip praises him for his nice work and asks what they're going to do about the next gate. He replies that they're running late as per their schedule, so they should get to it. Then he begins to walk, reminding them that he already told them today was going to be a long day, so they should be ready. Jake replies that it's exactly what he wanted. They clear gates without rest, and after spending 7 hours just clearing gates, they end up clearing 4 rank D gates. Fully rested mercenary units are deployed on rank E gates under Bernard's command, and they finish every mission safely, concluding every single gate that appears in the capital, Turium. There were approximately 500 casualties on the first day, and they rescued around 700 people. He knows that most people think that it's over, but he also knows that this is just a little skirmish before the real war. People in the street begin to talk about the gates, how some people are dragged into them, and monsters coming out from them. They figure out why they saw many mercenaries and knights, and how they predicted and are preparing for it. A lady chuckling heard that they were from the prestigious Ashton County, and the youngest son was in command. They talk about Raul Ashton, who was sleeping in his sofa mansion, tired. Meanwhile, in Randall County Mansion, a man faces the county of Randall, who is reading the newspaper about neutralizing gates in the capital, Turium. The prestigious warrior family, Ashton County, is back, selected by Turium citizens as a man of the hour, Raul Ashton, and Ashton County's great leap forward may be a sign of getting involved in politics. The county tears the newspaper into pieces, shouting that everything they prepared was blown away in a week. He then asks Brian if he thinks it makes sense. Brian, fearfully calling the county his father, tells him that there's no need to worry. But the county becomes more furious, releasing a strong aura which causes Brian to kneel down on the ground, enduring it in pain. The county tells Brian that he made over 30 sons until he turned 60, yet all of them are useless. He then thinks that, on the other hand, the sons of Ashton are all worthy. The chandelier shakes because of the force the county is releasing, but then it stops moving when the county calms down. Brian stands up, and the county asks him how he calls himself an expert knight when he can't even withstand that much pressure. Brian apologizes to the county, but Hudson D. Randall, the county of Randall, firmly orders Brian to report everything that happened after he started training in seclusion for a month. Brian begins to report that about 2 weeks ago, there was an official document sent out by the shrine. He takes out a paper from his coat, which Hudson opens to read. The letter states that the confirmed number of gates is 73, with around 40 cleared in the week, but the number is still increasing. The casualties are around 3,200 civilians missing or deceased. 15 knights and about 1,300 troops are missing or deceased, and knights are scared to enter the gate, leading to an increased number of casualties among the troops. For now, gates have been blocked and surveillance has been placed around them. Hudson angrily puts down the letter, causing Brian to look at his father in horror. From outside Hudson's office, Brian is thrown away, breaking the office door in the process and slamming hard against the wall outside. Hudson walks closer to his son, who is begging him, but he coldly tells Brian to get out, declaring there's no place for him in Randall anymore. He warns Brian not to think about stepping into Randall territory until called for. Hudson adds that if he sees Brian again, he won't hesitate to kill him, regardless of their relationship. He orders Brian to tell the third oldest to come to his office on his way out. A knight helps Brian out of the room, while Hudson fumes in anger, thinking about the Ashtons. Meanwhile, at Kingdom Academy, a maid asks her friend if the person they see is Raul, the young master of Ashton County. She tells her friend that she heard Raul led his knights and made a significant contribution. She comments on Raul's handsomeness as students whisper about him being the youngest ever to achieve the top rank and the good pay his knights receive. Caleb, fuming in anger, calls everyone who praises Raul stupid, claiming that Raul didn't actually do anything. A friend of Caleb angrily bets that Raul's family did everything for him and that Raul is just showing off for saving a few civilians from the gate. Caleb tells everyone that once reinforcements from his family arrive, he will prove he is better than Raul. On the other hand, Raul is getting tired of all the attention, feeling like an animal at the zoo, and wonders why they don't just talk to him. Suddenly, Dalton places his hand on Raul's shoulder and remarks that he has become a celebrity in just a week. Dalton also mentions that he guessed Raul did great since the entire capital is talking about him. Raul, however, tells Dalton that he doesn't want to know about it. Dalton then asks if the rumors are true about Raul being the real heir to Ashton County. This makes Raul ask Dalton, in surprise, what he just said. Dalton explains that this is what the rumors suggest and questions what family would give so many troops to a son who is not an heir. Raul tells Dalton to cut the nonsense, stating that his older brother is the heir, and that he himself has no interest in being the heir. To clarify, he also tells Dalton that he recruited his own knight order and had no support from his family. Dalton, surprised by this revelation, asks how that could be. Raul replies that he had some money. Dalton then says he understands now and suggests that maybe he should visit that gate thing with Raul. However, Raul suddenly realizes something and stares at Dalton, making Dalton ask why he is staring at him. Raul is just internally cursing because he realizes he has